Hello friends, how are you all? Today is 26th December. I am going to read a very interesting part of the story where comedian Trevor Noah writes about many misunderstandings in his memoir book Born a Crime, especially here when he and his friend Hitler, they are going to a dance performance at a Jewish community center. Even as they leave the center, Trevor Noah, his friend Hitler, and their dancing troupe fail to understand the gravity of the misunderstanding. So we will it's a hilarious part of the story, and we will learn how their education in South Africa completely failed to impress upon them the extent of the historical Hitler's crimes, Holocaust, and his impact on the Jewish community, and see how this resulted in a humorous, though disastrous, obviously, misunderstanding. So listen to today's story, which is Why is his name Hitler? Hitler was a great friend of mine, and good Lord could that guy dance. He was mesmerizing to watch. He had a looseness and a fluidity that defied physics. Imagine a jellyfish, if it could walk on land. Incredibly handsome, tall, lithe and muscular, with beautiful smooth skin, big teeth and a great smile, always laughing. And all he did was dance. He would be up in the morning, blasting house music or hip-hop, practicing moves the whole day. In the hood, everybody knows who the best dancer in the crew is. He is like your status symbol. When you are poor, you don't have a car or nice clothes, but the best dancer gets girls, so that's the guy you want to roll with. Hitler was our guy. There were parties with dance competitions. Kids from every neighborhood would come and bring their best dancers. Would always bring Hitler, and he almost won. When Bongani and I put together a routine for our dance crew, there was no question who was going to be the star attraction. We built the whole set around Hitler. I would warm the crowd up with a few songs, then the dancers would come and do a couple of numbers. Once they'd gotten the party started, they would fan out to form a semicircle around the stage with a gap in the back for Hitler to enter. I would crank up Redman's "Let's Get Dirty" and start whipping the crowd up even more. Are you ready? I can't hear you. Let me hear you. Make some noise. People would start screaming, and Hitler would jump into the middle of the semicircle, and the crowd would lose it. Hitler would do him thing while the guys circle around him, shouting him on, "Go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler." And because it was a hip hop, the crew would do that thing where you shoot your arm out in front of you with your palm flat, hopping it up and down to the beat. Go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler. We would have the whole crowd in a frenzy, 1,000 people in the street chanting along with their hands in the air. Go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler. Hitler, although an unusual name, is not unheard of in South Africa. Part of it has to do with the way a lot of black people pick names. Black people choose their traditional names with great care. Those are the names that have deeply personal meanings. But from colonial times through the days of apartheid, black people in South Africa were required to have an English or European name as well. A name that white people could pronounce, basically. So you had your English name, your traditional name, and your last name. Patricia Nombaislo Noah. 9 times out of 10, your European name was chosen at random, plucked from the Bible, or taken from a Hollywood celebrity or a famous politician in the news. I know guys named after Mussolini and Napoleon, and of course Hitler. Westerners are shocked and confused by that, but really it's a case of the West reaping what it has sown. The colonial powers carved up Africa, put the black man to work, and did not properly educate him. White people don't talk to black people, so why would black people know what's going on in the white man's world? Because of that, many black people in South Africa don't really know who Hitler was. My own grandfather thought a Hitler was a kind of army tank that was helping the Germans win the war, because that's what he took from what he heard on the news. For many black South Africans, the story of the war was that there was someone called Hitler and he was the reason the Allies were losing the war. This Hitler was so powerful that at some point black people had to go help white people fight against him. And if the white man has to stoop to ask the black man for helping fighting someone, that someone must be the toughest guy of all time. So if you want your dog to be tough, you name your dog Hitler. If you want your kid to be tough, you name your kid Hitler. There is a good chance you have got an uncle named Hitler. It is just a thing. At Sandringham, we were taught more about World War II than the typical black kids in the townships were, but only in a basic way. We were not taught to think critically about Hitler and anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. We were not taught, for instance, that the architects of apartheid were big fans of Hitler, that the racist policies they put in place were inspired in part by the racist policies of the Third Reich. We were not taught how to think about how Hitler related to the world we lived in. We were not being taught to think, period. All we were taught was that in 1939 Hitler invaded Poland and in 1941 he invaded the Soviet Union and in 1943 he did something else. They are just facts. Memorize them, write them down for the test and forget them. There is also this to consider. The name Hitler does not offend a black South African because Hitler is not the worst kind a black South African can imagine. Every country thinks their history is the most important, and that's especially true in the West. But if black South Africans could go back in time and kill one person, Cecil Rhodes would come up before Hitler. If people in the Congo could go back in time and kill one person, Belgium's King Leopold would come way before Hitler. If Native Americans could go back in time and kill one person, it would probably be Christopher Columbus or Andrew Jackson. I often meet people in the West who insist that the Holocaust was the worst atrocity in human history, without question. Yes, it was horrific, but I often wonder which African atrocities, like in the Congo, how horrific were they? The thing Africans don't have that Jewish people do have is documentation. The Nazis kept meticulous records, took pictures, made films, and that is really what it comes down to. Holocaust victims count because Hitler counted them. 6 million people killed. We can all look on that number and rightly be horrified, but when you read through the history of atrocities against Africans, there are no numbers, only guesses. It is harder to be horrified by a guess. When Portugal and Belgium were plundering Angola and the Congo, they were not counting the black people they slaughtered. How many black people died harvesting rubber in the Congo, in the gold and diamond mines of the Transvaal? So in Europe and America, yes, Hitler is the greater madman in history. In Africa, he is just another strong man from the history books. In all my time hanging out with Hitler, I never once asked myself, why is his name Hitler? His name was Hitler because his mom named him Hitler.